Entertainment Mod Soldier here, and I am here to talk about the announcement of a season 2 of The Bad Batch by Disney Plus. Now, I'm kind of surprised that this has happened. I didn't think this was going to happen. I didn't think The Bad Batch was strong enough for a season 2, but apparently Disney thinks they are. Now, this is pretty surprising to me because this series has not been perfect. I'm not going to say it's been horrible. There have been episodes I liked, like last week's episode. Great episode. But this series has had problems with the fact that it's been mainly a filler filled season. There has been more episodes that have been crap than there have been great episodes. Now, I get that Disney are trying to make this their version of the Clone Wars. Disney, it's not going to work. This series is not as strong as the Clone Wars. Now, people can say, well, the Clone Wars had Jedi and the clones, and now this series has to focus more on the clones. Bullshit. You can do great stories with just the clones. The fact that the Umbara arc was amazing, and there was barely Jedi in that season. In that arc. You don't need Jedi, you don't need to have a massive war, you just need to have great storylines. And this series doesn't really have that, unfortunately. I'm not saying that it's a terrible show. I'm just saying, a season 2? I don't know where they go. Are we just going to have the same old thing with a Bad Batch running from the Empire? The Empire haven't even been that interested in the Bad Batch. The only reason the Empire has even been going after the Bad Batch is basically because of Crosshair. So for me, an announcement of season 2, it just sounds like Disney are just trying to make content because they don't know what else to do. And the Bad Batch is a small success, and yes, it is a success, but at a very, very small amount. It is not the biggest hyped thing on the internet. Most people I watch on YouTube couldn't care about it, and the people who are Disney shills are pretty much not caring themselves. The show is not that powerful, and it is a surprise to hear Disney are giving it a season 2. And my biggest problem with the Bad Batch right now is the fact they are just focused on Omega. Now, I've tried my hardest to defend Omega. I have said she's not a Mary Sue, even though she has got traits that do lean towards that. But she isn't a Mary Sue. But the show is too focused on her. That's one of the biggest problems with the Bad Batch. They should never have left the Empire. We should have seen how the Empire was created from the inside. We should have had the Bad Batch be Imperial commandos and helping the Empire grow, and just seeing the world through their eyes. But Disney doesn't really do stuff like that. They kind of just write crappy stories. Now, I know that Lucasfilm and Dave Filoni are the ones in charge of this, but I don't think Dave Filoni was the talent that created the Clone Wars series. I know some people say that yes, he was the guy who made it, but let's be honest, George Lucas was right next to him. And if we go by the Bad Batch, where George Lucas is not that involved, it shows. It shows that Dave Filoni is not this massive thing. He's not that talented. Am I saying he's horrible? No, he does good story writing. But I do think the biggest episodes in the Clone Wars were George Lucas. And I could be wrong, and maybe Dave Filoni is just getting his orders from Disney, and they're the ones telling him what to write. But even then, you can still make a good story out of the Bad Batch episodes. It's just, we didn't really get that much this season. Again, Bad Batch, not a terrible season. And it is a great show with some episodes. Again, last week's episode was great. But majority of the Bad Batch episodes have been too focused on Omega, too focused on her training, too focused on the Bad Batch being bloody babysitters. And this also annoys me, the fact we have heard the news of a season 2, then the Bad Batch are just going to survive. Because apparently, if you go to Twitter, the guy who writ this, the last two episodes of The Bad Batch, says the last episode is going to be a jerker. Now, I thought that meant I was right. The Bad Batch are all going to get killed, and they'll save Omega, and Omega goes somewhere in the galaxy, and we find out about her in the Book of Boba Fett, because you know Dave Filoni's going to connect these two shows together. But it turns out with this announcement, the Bad Batch are going to survive. So I'm guessing that we pretty much know what's going to happen, or at least I do, that Crosshair's going to die. Because I think that's what he means by tearjerker. I don't think they're going to kill any of the members of the Bad Batch. Now, I could be wrong, but the person who's definitely safe, Hunter. I don't think they're going to kill Hunter because he is the father figure to Omega. Wrecker, I would put second as the second most safe person. Echo and Tech, I think, are the more likely to die. But I just don't think they're going to kill any of the, remaining Bad Batch. I think the tearjerker is going to be Crosshair betraying the Empire and helping the Bad Batch escape. And if it is that, fuck you, Disney, and fuck you, Dave Filoni, because then that's a shit story. I'm not saying it's going to be completely shit, but it would have been better to see the Bad Batch work with Crosshair rejoining the Bad Batch to fight the Empire, and then them all dying as a last stand against the Empire. That would be interesting. But with this announcement, yes, they are not killing the Bad Batch. They're going to keep them around for another season, and I just think that's dumb. And the show, I'm sorry, but the show is just not that good. Again, episodes are good, but when you put them all together, there's so much filler in this series, it's annoying. Like, people say there was filler in the Clone Wars. Yes, but one, it never felt like filler. They were very entertaining episodes. And two, they were very rare, because you always had a story arc. Like, 1 minute, you're on Umbara with Rex, trying to help his brothers win a war whilst the general is trying to kill them. Then you go straight over to Ahsoka being thrown out of the Jedi Order and having to save her life and stop the real murderer who killed all those innocent people in the last episodes of season 5. Sorry. What I mean is basically you didn't just stay in one arc. You had an arc, then you had a filler episode, then you went to another arc. That's what I'm trying to say here. You had an arc, filler, arc. So they were always very rare, filler episodes. In this series, there has been more filler than there have been arc episodes. And that's one of the biggest problems in this series as well. The stories have just not been as good as the Clone Wars. Because the show has pushed the Bad Batch to the outer rim, basically. And we can't see the internals of the Empire unless we see episodes with fucking Crosshair. And they were always rare too. And the episodes with Crosshair being a fucking badass and being the bad guy are actually interesting episodes. Like the episodes when Crosshair tells his troops to kill those innocent people and one trooper says, I'm not doing this, I'm not a murderer. That's interesting, because then he shoots him, but that's interesting to see. Not everybody at the start of the Empire was evil. It's just that they got taken out before they could become a danger to the Empire, and that's how more and more troops became, I'm not going to fight, I'm not going to kill myself to save these people. That's interesting. But Disney wanted a show just about one person, and people can say that I'm being hyperbolic when I say this, but yes, The Bad Batch is basically just about Omega. I'm sorry. It's just about her it's just about Dave Filoni saying this is a very important woman or girl and we need to respect that and blah 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 blah. Which we didn't need. Omega is not a terrible character. She is interesting, but you're too focused on her. When she's not in an episode, like the Twi'lek episodes on Ryloth, those episodes were actually very interesting. Seeing how the Empire is turning against the people, seeing that the clones are starting to realise that they may be on the bad guy side. Those episodes are interesting. The ones with Omega learning shit aren't. I'm sorry. It's good to have those little parts in the episode, But when the episode's pretty much too focused on Omega, it just takes away from everything else. I'm sorry. But yeah. So I don't have that much faith in the next season of The Bad Batch. Listen, I'm not saying it's going to be terrible. I'm just saying that it's not going to be fantastic. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong. But from what we've got from this last season, I don't have that much hope. I mean, at least hope that they get rid of the... At least stop with the filler episodes, Disney. Okay? Dave, stop with the filler episodes. How about we have arcs this time? How about the Bad Batch do more things than just being a bunch of fucking mercenaries? Because we all know what's going to happen in the next season. They're pretty much going to join up with Rex. Rex is going to try to do something special and fight the Empire. And we all know it's not going to work because the Empire is still around in New Hope. So, I don't know. But it's just sad to know that Crosshair is going to die as well. Because I think he's obviously going to die. He's obviously going to turn against the Empire. He's obviously going to sacrifice himself to save the Bad Batch. And I think that's what the writer was talking about by a tearjerker series. Ending to the series. So, it's going to be sad to see him go. But I'm just not that bothered about a season 2 of the Bad Batch. It's just not strong enough, in my opinion, for them to keep this show going. And that's my thoughts on it. If you like this video, give it a like. If you dislike this video, give it a dislike. And do comment below if you agree with me that season 2 might not be a good idea for the Bad Batch. Oh, and if you like my content, do think about subscribing too. Hail the Fandom Menace, long live CG, and fuck SJWs. Bye.